Hello, I'm Ankit, and with me is
Anup.
Welcome to Screen Damage, episode 4. We tend to talk mostly in English, but we speak in Hindi as well. Today, we are discussing the movie Ghar, also known as The Dwelling, from the year 1989, directed by Girish Kasaravalli. If you want to reach us, you can do so by checking out the links to our social media in the description. If you want to contact us by email, you can do that by emailing us at screendamagepod@gmail.com. Let's get to the episode.
Did you watch first? What was the first work you watched of this guy?
This is the first work I've watched.
You didn't watch that Anant Murthy documentary you did?
No.
I guess you haven't.
Okay.
So the documentary I'm talking about is Anant Murthy, not a biography, but a hypothesis. You know, you are Anant Murthy. He died like a year or two ago.
I don't. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know the guy. Yes.
Yeah. So he made a documentary about him and his work in film and literature and stuff.
I'm not sure Girish. What's the name of this director?
Girish
Kasaravalli. Okay, yeah. So we watched a documentary on this director as well, right?
Yeah, it was by O.P. Srivastav. It was released in 2015 and it won like a national award. That's how we got to see it.
Yeah, okay.
During that festival thing. So from there, I think we came to this film, or like I came to this film, and
yeah, I think you watched it way earlier than I did. Like you watched it last year, I think. After we watched the documentary, a few months after that, you watched Ghar.
Not sure if I did it right after that or...
Yeah, but that was what spurred us on to it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I was interested in his movies after watching that documentary because of the scenes that they used from his movies. They were quite intriguing.
I mean, the criticism in that, or like the appreciation or whatever you would say, it seemed kind of in the vein of like a Zizek movie or whatever, right? Like it was kind of going into it deeper. Even though I don't really care for Zizek now.
I don't know. I mean, it was like a retrospective. It was more of a that documentary was more of a greatest hits. I would say, like showing,
but still
showing his
like,
work.
It was explaining it though.
Yeah, the chronology of his work. That was it in that
chronology
movie.
Plus like what the scenes meant or whatever, those sort of things.
Yeah, but they didn't go in depth. They were more reverential. They were more like
obviously like
look at how great this person is. Like a kind of a light hagiography, if you will.
Funnily enough, like the documentary that he did for Anant Murthy was kind of like that as well.
Yeah, I think Indian documentaries about like these sort of subjects, these sort of people, they tend to be fawning over them rather than like some sort of... I think that has to be by design. If you're willing to put up a production which goes into a person's life, a person's work, it has to be that way because you have to have some sort of at least a passing interest in that person's work to begin with. So yeah.
Documentary's name was Life in a Metaphor, Portrait of Girish Kasaravalli. That was by O.P. Srivastav.
So that's where we begin with Ghar because that's what spurred us on into...
I remember seeing the opening scene in that documentary where he's like sitting there.
Yeah, that interested me as well because I thought that the opening scene here is like kind of talking at the audience while talking at the
character.
Yeah, it's like kind of fourth wall breaking thing, which happens only in that scene, but it's like it kind of sets the stage for the kind of personal movie that it is, that it's saying these things to people who might have experienced... It's kind of a universal thing that might have experienced this sort of thing in their own lives, and it kind of begins there, and I think it's a great way to begin this sort of movie.
Yeah, but I mean the film itself is kind of all over the place, right? Like it's doing so many things in that sense, like
it's a real... I think it's a masterpiece. The way it builds its layers, the way it builds the stories and what their contexts are. It gives it gives life to so many characters in this movie which don't even have speaking parts, and it's like I think that's the real achievement of this movie, that it makes these characters as lifelike as possible, who you might not even see in this movie. It's like giving voice to the voiceless kind of thing in this movie. That's what I really loved about it. I don't think it's all over the place though. It is kind of it kind of tackles a lot of subjects, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like it's a smorgasbord of like things. It's covering like it's covering caste, it's covering class, it's covering, you know, noise in some sense, like the aspects of noise that we deal with and how the absence of it would affect us or the average bourgeois or whatever, you know. It is covering sexism very like heavily, even though like the characters themselves aren't that overtly against it or for it or so on and so forth, right?
I wouldn't say that it pointedly goes against any of these things.
Yeah.
Apart from just the class aspect of it, it doesn't really go after caste at all. I thought.
I mean, it kind of does and it doesn't, but like it's very subtle. If you ever see the main character Nasiruddin Shah is playing, you know, it's kind of apparent how into his whole religion he is, how, you know, Brahminical he is, or
so I don't think that's a caste aspect. That's more of a supremacist kind of thing. Like it's just. So I don't think
that comes with the caste though.
Yeah, it doesn't really comment on anything there. It just says that this is the normal. This is how people are.
In its character establishment, it's going there though. It is showing that and it's making that apparent, right?
Yeah, it's showing that and it's making that apparent in service of like saying this is the standard, this is the normal, this is how the average Indian is, rather than like just any sort of criticism for, or it doesn't comment on anything apart from the Brahminical aspects of it. Like it doesn't comment on the caste makeup of the people that exist outside of that house, his neighbors, the people who he is working with or anything like that. It doesn't really go into that. So it's just a background set dressing kind of thing, and it's in its overtness it is like trying to say that it's so ubiquitous, this sort of person, this person is every man, that sort of thing. So yeah, even the sexism aspects I would say were lightly broached. They didn't really get a lot into it.
I mean, they kind of did though, with the whole monologue or you know, dialogues with the aunt character played by Rohini Matna Gadi Kush. I am really like watching this. Let's just say Rohini.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is the only character that's actually speaking anything for or against, like or like for feminism, right?
I don't think there's any. I wouldn't say that. It is just like the here in this movie. I would say that it's her character, the aunt, right? She plays the aunt. It's more a representative of certain things rather than her being a fleshed out character. It's more like points of her history are being plucked out to just exemplify what's happening in the husband and wife's life. It's more that. It's more like a reflection of things rather than just like her own character. Like she always, whenever she comes into the movie, it's to make a point about like these people's lives rather than her own life.
No, that's not true. When she does when the cemetery scene happens,
Cemetery,
yeah. So like there she kind of opens up, and that's where her character essentially kind of ends.
But that's where again that scene also exemplifies the fact that it's more about how that contrasts with the lives of these other people. It's more like her history is in service of contrast with the normal, the average people, right?
But it does a lot for setting up the world.
Yeah, I'm not denying that. I'm just saying that it's all of the pathos that her character has, it's more in service of like the central story. The class aspect is the most sharp in this movie. That's what the most pointed critique is directed at in this movie.
Yeah, but it does pay heed to other things as well.
Yeah, it does. It does. I'm not denying
it's not very like lip servicey either, right? It's it's better than that at least.
Yes.
In those aspects.
Yes, it weaves a very complex narrative rather than just like monologues about things and how they should be or how they are. It just shows like things happening in the background, and through surreal aspects of it, like it shows the mind state, the physical states of people and things of that nature as well. So it does do a lot which is not really cemented in the fact that it's telling you how these characters are feeling. Like there's a lot of external aspects to them as well.
Well, at least the main two characters are pretty like their feelings are known to us or whatever. Yeah. It's not as if they are blank slates or just a vessel or something. They are fleshed out pretty well.
Yeah, they are fleshed out. I'm not saying they're not fleshed out. I'm saying that the context that these surreal moments or the environment or the extraneous methods of storytelling, they add to it rather than just like act as a stand-in. Also, the fact that this movie is not that long by Bollywood standards, it's like 1 hour 40 minutes.
I mean, it's not Bollywood though. It's more of that whole parallel cinema sort of thing. From
but my point being that it packs in so much into that running time that really impressed me personally, because it's such a dense movie. Manages to say so much.
From what I remember from that documentary, this director does tend to get more indulgent in other films, right? Like they are a longer length and like he's doing whatever he wants in them. Like this seems like a French case in his thing. Or maybe I'm just talking out of my ass here, like because I haven't seen any of his other movies.
Yeah, the other thing that irked me in that documentary was like the scenes that were shown from other movies. The religious aspect, I think, is really heavily there in all of his movies. The religious and Brahminical aspects. And I think I don't know if that really plays into this movie, but it isn't like a very reverential kind of thing in this movie. It's just there, but I think that would keep me off from watching all of his movies.
I don't think it was reverential in either of the movies shown in the documentary, at least.
I thought it was.
Maybe it's like a Schrodinger's character. I don't like we can't.
Yeah, but I mean, it was present in this movie and that also.
I mean, it was present in that it was just showing it as like a character building sort of thing, exercise.
Yeah.
It wasn't really doing much with it, but still, it is kind of apparent in that, right? Like he is kind of forcing people's hand and stuff in this movie, and it is kind of a brahmacharical traditional thing to do, you know, oppressing people or like.
No, what traditional thing to do?
Brahmacharical. Yeah.
Okay.
Brahminical or whatever.
Yeah. What were your thoughts on the movie? Like, what did you think about it? Like, did you like it or not?
Yeah, I liked it.
What particular aspects would you say are which things stand out in this movie to you?
I saw a lot of moments in this that kind of were trying to do a lot more or like trying to say a lot more, but like I couldn't see it as such. Like maybe it's just I am just that kind of idiotic person who just sees something and just says "Ye kya hai?" or whatever. It's like that scene where he's like using saffron to paint his walls for ants and stuff.
Haldi. He's using haldi.
That's saffron, right?
No.
He's painting his wall kind of blood red with that, right?
Yeah, that's the trick of lighting there. It's supposed to be yellow, but it also blends into red.
Okay, whatever it is, I'm saying it's trying to say a lot there, right? Like there, just before that, the scene happens where, they banish essentially those people out of their like shed. I think that's the scene after which this takes place.
No, it's after the grand opening of the video game hut.
Yeah, so I mean it's kind of near that.
Yeah.
So, because the pacing of the movie works like that, right? Like it's kind of instantly changing to that. So it's kind of symbolic to that, right? Like it's painting it with red and like him being really anal about this and just doing these things that are essentially like needless kind of things to do at that point of time, like it in the middle of the night or something that, no?
Oh yes, I mean, I thought you were making a point there.
I mean, I just if I'm right or not, like in this sense.
No, but what you were talking about is that the movie tries to, like with the scene that you were describing.
I am talking more about that it is trying way too hard, right? Like you can make this point kind of.
I disagree there.
It kind of felt like that, but like I'm not like against it or anything, but like it's just a bit overkill, but I guess that plays in service to the character as well.
Yeah.
In that sense, I like it, but like.
So that scene, would you say that scene stood out to you? Like, did you?
I mean, that's what it's. I felt it.
So let me get this straight. You're saying that scene, the movie wants you to believe it's more than it is. That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
It feels kind of like that, but like I can't be just me overanalyzing or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Let's start at the beginning of this movie. When we first see Naseeruddin Shah's character trying to get the home, he is in this house where I think like some sort of deals are happening about, like, he's a jeweler or something, the landlord.
Yeah.
So like he's ascertaining the values of things, and he's just saying certain things about like how he wouldn't give the house to this guy because of, I guess, no reason at all. There was no reason given at first for him. But from the get-go, we see like him, Naseeruddin Shah's character, he goes and talks to his aunt,
hold on, like there was a reason. I think he was saying something along the lines of like it's a big city and all, and you don't want to trust just anyone. So when he moves in, right?
Yeah, okay,
he say something like that.
Yeah, the landlord says that he doesn't trust him, essentially, that he doesn't want to give the house to him. That's
didn't want to give the house to him because he didn't know who he was associated with him with it.
Yeah, it was that thing of I'm not going to give this house to just anyone.
Yeah.
So that sort of like elitist attitude was
not just anyone. It's more like he was being more like you don't know what kind of people roam around the city or something like that.
No, it's more like it was more like I don't trust you. You might be some.
Yeah, not you particularly, but like it's more talking about generally
implication
people.
Was that he's saying that Naseeruddin Shah's character is some sort of like that sort of thing happens in real life.
He was kind of apologizing at that point. He was saying that if I had known that you were associated with this aunt character.
No, but I'm talking about before that, when he denies him the house, when he is like, the reason that he gives for denying him the house is like that you might be some sort of like gunda or something, like some sort of like.
Yeah, okay. Let's go.
Yeah, so my point was about like the gatekeepers. His whole the environment that the landlord exists in, his house. It's like so much of you can see a lot of like fine art on his walls. You can see a lot of like there's a lot of religious iconography in his house, and he himself wears like a tilak or some sort of thing. He is very too religious. Like he is some sort of like he wears his religion on his sleeves, right? That landlord person. There's also the fact that
isn't that the through line throughout the film though? Like
yeah, it is.
Yeah,
but
the whole initial them moving in and like painting stuff and like putting Om in random places or whatever.
Yeah, but that's my point, right? I mean, it
then
begins
later on when they go to visit that old lady that's living there. That we want to continue. What's going on?
No, you go ahead. Like what?
So she also quotes like the Gita and stuff, and she's always praying at random times.
Yeah. It is a throughout the movie.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, my point is that from the beginning we get like that these gatekeepers, the people who hold the keys, are essentially, they will only allow people of their kind essentially into their inner circle. And the whole thing about respectability, the whole thing about like knowing people, the whole kind of in-group dynamic that exists within all of this movie. It's like he has to approach his aunt to say something to this guy in order to even get the house. So it's those kind of things that you need some sort of like connection, right? That's the word there. You need some sort of connection, some sort of
foot in the door.
Yeah, it's more to do with like how the grunt work essentially is being done by these external forces, the things that you don't want to get your hands dirty with. Like there are other people, there are other forces which you approach for those things so that you can keep your conscience clean. That's a theme throughout the movie. Is it nepotistic, like that sort of thing? Like, is it nepotism? Nepotism is like favoritism towards your own family, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if nepotism applies here, but like it's kind of like that. It is like kind of key. Only people I know are going to get ahead or whatever. So the gatekeeper aspect plays into a lot of this movie. Once we get into the house though, the first time they enter the house, it is kind of in a state where what did you think about it? Like the house itself, when you first see it, like what were your thoughts there? House as a thing, as an entity in this movie.
Yeah, just seemed like a desolate kind of place which was just in a standstill situation, probably because the last tenant themselves kind of left or something like that in a hurry. They left the bed there or whatnot, you know.
There's that obvious symbolism of the bed being a monster.
Yeah, that, and also the fact that like the kittens are there, you know, just the baby kittens or whatever. Like I don't know how that happens.
It was open, right? The house, so some.
No, they weren't inside though. Like it was on a window shell thing.
The construction of the house, the way that it's lit in this movie, in any scene, it kind of gives off a kind of a gothic vibe, like especially due to the bed and the unpainted kind of walls, right? I mean, the paint has peeled off of them and they haven't done anything to it. Like it's the first time you see.
How is it gothic though?
The construction of the what do you call it? The bed itself, like it like exposed iron everywhere, and it's.
What does gothic mean again?
Huh?
Gothic.
It is kind of like a. I understand it to be like old style, like you know when you see these gargoyles on top of towers and these sort of iconography where animals are inside it, and like I'm probably not totally getting the definition of gothic here, but like it's in my head it's more like red velvet carpets and like these high walls and thing, like horror movie aesthetic essentially in my mind.
Okay.
Gothic is something I got just from the bed itself and the whole exposed walls and like things of that nature.
Okay.
The exposed iron. Yeah, everything is kind of in decay there. It's like once they move into the house, they do fix it up afterwards, but like the first time you see the house, you see that it's some sort of like demanding new blood or anything, something like that. It's that sort of thing.
It's sort of like that throughout the film though, like the character of the house itself is there, right? Like you have it's sort of creating havoc for these people with the noise, with the, you know, with like it not being clean because of its decaying nature, its ability to like make these people so like, you know, initially how happy they are, and like by like the middle and the end, like they are sort of like these people who kind of hate each other now. Like it's
the thing is that I don't think that they were happy in the beginning either.
Yeah, it's just it brings the worst out of them though.
Yeah, but that's the implication that the house is some sort of external entity which makes you do these things.
It is and it isn't though. Like it's kind of like it's trying to say more that these people were kind of screwed from the get-go, and this just brought it out. This was just like a helping factor or like a supporting factor.
It is kind of a thing in a lot of...
It just sped the whole process along, essentially.
There's a common trope in a lot of movies where you see your emotions as being spurred on by an external force. Like the thing I was talking about, the gatekeeper thing before, right? I mean, it's that he doesn't want some outside influence, and like once the outside influence that exists, it forces him into accepting these people into this house. So that sort of outside influence is the thing which exists in our lives as well, right? That we go to these external forces when we don't want our hands dirty, and we think of emotions in that sense as well, right? That we are overcome by anger rather than just like anger being a part of us, that it's something which possesses you rather than you being that anger being inside you. It's an outside thing. So in that way, the house, how you're talking about, like it does take possession over these people, because the movie's trying its hardest to like show urban living in a dialectical kind of manner, but like it's more to do with like them shifting the blame outside of them, these two people, the husband and wife, that whatever is happening, it's due to the house rather than them living in a place or them having escaped someplace else. It is externalization of all their urban living nightmares. So it is the house consumes them, and that sort of metaphorical thing it exists in this movie as well. Like it's the way that you're talking about the house, right? That it is what spurs it on. I think that's like a absolve, that they are getting absolved of their sins, because it's the house which made them do things.
I initially actually in my first viewing I kind of thought that was the case, or like
but the movie is trying to say that, right?
Yeah, the movie itself is trying to say that as well, but like that is just one aspect of it. It's you have seen that guy's the apartment. What was his name?
Roman Polanski. Yeah.
So it's kind of like that, and that aspect. Initially, I was just making that comparison in my head, but then I rewatched it, and like this was just like one aspect of it.
That was The Tenant, I think, in which he was the actor.
Where he just goes crazy.
The Roman Polanski is acting in that movie, right? He is the...
I don't remember.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah,
it doesn't matter. So like there was a parallel there, right? Like I was kind of explaining it to people with that like as a reference point.
To others. To others.
To people, yeah. If I was to you or whatever. So, but in the second viewing, I kind of let go of that part and just looked at it from another aspect, and it just didn't even cross my mind, that thing. And like the whole class aspect and stuff started to roll in, and like it was kind of more refreshing than the first viewing.
Yeah, I think the characters...
in that sense, that just is just a second nature thing that's happening or whatever. We can try, some people might try to like latch on to that, but it isn't the main crux of the thing, right? it is going after the person rather than trying to demonize this house or whatever. Or maybe even if it is
literally demonizing the house.
Even if it is, ultimately you get to know how bad this person is, right? Like by the end or whatever, how like this person has screwed this other person's livelihood and everything at the expense of like
the implication of the movie is that the house made them do it, and it is kind of like it is kind
not
of
really like, because there is enough dialogue.
There's no
like,
personal responsibility that these characters take.
Again, these characters you saying, it's mostly the male character that's doing this kind of horseshit. He's going around like and essentially making things very weird and like awkward for this other lady that or like his wife that he's living with. There's some scene initially where the aunt character comes in and says तुम तो चले जाओगे and like इसको झेलना पड़ेगा, something along those lines, right?
Oh right, yeah. That was the scene where they make a deal where these people will work only in the night. The noise that's coming in their apartment.
Yeah, they will be warned.
I thought the aspects where they're talking about their lives in the village, that what their lives were when they were in the village, right? That they escaped from the village to come live in the urban environments. The way that they romanticize it, and in the beginning, the new urban life is going to bring them so much renewed life force, and
they do the exact opposite in the like later half of the movie, I think.
Yeah, but again it's like a catch-22 kind of situation, that the grass is greener on the other side kind of thing, which happens throughout this movie. The village aspect, the village plays into the fact that they want isolation from others, right? They want to be left alone, is the implication there, that they're talking about how everyone was nosy in the village, like they were just like asking them about their business constantly, and there was so much noise and there was so much problems in the village, and the escape into the urban dream, it is rife with them like imagining that they will now be able to indulge into their own personal pursuits, that they will have enough time and enough peace of mind to do whatever they had wanted to do, and that moving to an urban place, that their desires will have more breathing space and they will be able to have more desires there because of this, right?
What's your point?
So my point is that their escape from the villages, like it's contextualized that like they wanted something out of the urban life, and
obviously anyone who moves from a village to a city, they have expectations and such.
Yeah, but the expectations are
right. So what's so noteworthy about this?
It's noteworthy because it's subverted in the future, and how their desires shift after actually having this thing that they wanted, actually getting to that, like actually like having it in the palm of their hands.
Not really. It's not like they have anything there by that point. Like it's very early on when the shed people come in, or like when they start fantasizing about like what's happening in the village or whatever. They haven't reached that level of achievement that they lay out in the beginning.
That's exactly my point. That what they desired, what they dreamed about when they were in the village.
Yeah.
That's exactly when they try to grab it. It doesn't, like, they can't actually physically have that dream, because that dream actually doesn't exist in reality. It's a different thing than how they imagined it. That's all I'm saying. The camera also, like, it tends to reorient itself on religious iconography in this movie. Like when the scenes are cut and like stuff like that, it tends to like move to religious icons a lot.
Yeah.
And that also kind of like irked me, because it tends to.
I didn't see it that much though.
It was mostly in the first half.
And that too, like, it was limited enough. I think things.
I don't know.
It was very.
It was kind of noticeable to me.
That's just establishing the characters or whatever. Is how into their faith they are and how practical they are.
What do you think about like the loss of empathy that city life brings with these people before they get to know? The fact is that when they move into the house after like 1 or 2 nights, there's these laborers who are working late at night, and there's a huge racket that nobody says anything about. Like they all know about it and they ignore it, and all of the neighbors who are living around.
Yep.
And these people their lives are being disrupted by this noise. And there is this loss of empathy, right? I mean, with city life, where they don't think what actually that's happening in there. It's more like I just wanted to stop with these people, right?
That's not the case. Initially, at least, they were trying to be helpful and stuff. They go and break the lock for them, or like he goes and breaks the lock. Like it's like a very dramatic shift that happens throughout the film, right? Like him helping them, and then they just screw him over and like steamroll him and like keep making the noise even after him requesting them.
Did he actually talk to those people?
Yeah. Like he went to them and asked them to stop, and they said नाइट शो देख के आ जाइए, पैसे हम दे देंगे. Like there was a scene or dialogue that signified this or like solidified this.
I don't think that was the laborers who said that.
It was the laborers. So it is sort of trying to like have its cake and eat it to the film throughout the thing, you know, because initially it's trying to demonize them, and once like that happens and these people start to try to like remove them from the picture, other aspects of the shed people comes forward. Like they have families there. It is just not just these two faceless people who are just hammering away or whatever. Speaking of like those iconography sort of things, right? Like it's trying really hard in certain aspects where like it's the same scene where he goes and helps them out and they ask for some water, and he goes and gives it to them, and there's like a huge glove that's going and grabbing it, and I don't know what that meant anyways. Like
why was that they're working, they're workers, right? They're working with like heavy equipment and their safety gloves. That's what that signified.
No, but it was so like very. I mean, this obviously doesn't play on audio. Like him,
it was a real extreme close up where the worker who is wearing a glove, a heavy construction kind of glove, and grabbing this lota of water, like a tumbler of water essentially, from Nasiruddin Shah's character's hands. And it's lit in I
guess it's sort of signifying that, but if it's just pushing its luck there, right? Like maybe the audience understands or they don't. Like
I don't think there was any particular significance to that.
It does kind of add up in that sense. Like they're kind of snatching that peace and quiet or calm from them. That's just maybe me, or like
maybe and that's a possible interpretation. Going back to empathy loss, it's like the first day they try to rationalize certain things. The first night that the noise happens, that they're saying that it's just for the night, it will go away tomorrow, it will stop tomorrow, and things of that nature. And then he starts like inserting cloths into the seams of the windows, and like it's more like I don't want to talk to these people the first thing. I just want to do whatever I can to keep myself in a very insular, atomized kind of way, that my unit is individual and it's separate from the outside world and external.
Maybe you're projecting there, but like it's they have certain scenes after which that happens. You know, the scene where he goes there and talks to them, and then he comes back a broken man or whatever, they say things to him like, night show dekh ke aa jaye, paise hum de denge, and so on and so forth. So it's after that's happening, him trying to isolate himself or whatever, trying to circumvent the situation. It is after him trying the upfront kind of way.
So the attempt there itself is like indication. It's the indication of like how the individual in our society, like imagine the situation was happening with us.
Yeah.
We wouldn't go to the person and talk to them at length about this, right? Because we know how that would turn out. We know how that would, like, because people are under certain pressures. They do have to do those things. Like there's forces behind people doing this sort of thing. Like if they were doing it at night, they would had to be forced into doing it at night, right?
It's not always the case though. Like it depends on
they
the
were doing it
noise
for their own enjoyment or something, like what they're getting their rocks off or something.
Yeah, obviously there are literally like songs, really modern Bollywood, like the whole of Gurgaon is based on that. It's just like the whole Honey Singh bullshit is based on that. Like
what are you talking? I'm talking about the fact that they're making noise at night.
Yeah, you are saying that. Are these people getting their rocks over
making noise?
Not these people perhaps, but like there are people like that. Okay, that's what I'm saying.
That who make industrial noise at night to get their rocks off.
Industrial, not industrial, but like noise. I'm just talking about noise in general.
Yeah, okay, I agree with you on that. That in general, I guess the noise.
There are a number of people that would do that. And these people doing it, I don't know, nobody tries to actually get the rationale out of them, because they probably think that they are far gone cases or something like that. Because, when Nasiruddin Shah actually tries to confront them or tries to ask them to stop at night or whatever, they kind of blow him off and say these lewd things, right? So that's the point where...
Do you think that in real life, that was my point for bringing up real life, is like, do you think that there would have been an amicable outcome there in any circumstance ever? Like they were probably both angry at that point when he went and asked them to stop, and when they told him the thing, he just probably stormed off from there, right? Yeah. There was no attempt at a coming to an agreement or any sort of like...
I mean, what would be the agreement there? If they are just being...
Just asking like who has told you to do these things? Why are you living here? Who are you people? Things of that nature. That doesn't happen in this movie. He just goes to the police after this, right? Or the court, right? I think it was the police. So yeah, my point is like the empathy loss, like the linear scale where it's just after one attempt at a conversation, he's just spurred on by other people as well, like his neighbors and his landlord. They're saying that we also want them out, but we haven't done anything because you know how things are, like police won't do anything, we have no power over it, just it's essentially they're saying just plug your ears.
It's just a group dynamic thing though.
Yeah, that's an interesting part of it though. Like
as soon as they got booted out of them, they're like roaming around their windows and saying ye aisa nahi karna chahiye tha.
Or their first reaction is that they also desire this, that they want them out as well, but like when he goes to his neighbor who's like a bodybuilder, he says that you should tire yourself out before you sleep. Like that sort of advice where everyone's advice is like, you do whatever you can as an individual to mitigate this sort of thing. It's essentially a different version of like, go watch a movie, we'll pay for it. Essentially everything is telling him their version of that thing. And once he does go to the police, The policeman also says that there's no basis here, he won't do anything. And that scene was quite interesting to me, where he goes and the scene is like...
That's again the forcing you to like have some semblance of symbolism or something like that. That's
the first thing is that when he is going to the police station, there's a strike happening.
Yeah, that's just ignored. Clear.
Huh?
That's very like matter of fact.
Yeah,
there's no credence paid.
But it is significant in this movie in the sense that it's...
I guess in that sense that he goes in there and gets shot down. You know.
Yeah, his demands are not met. Like, हमारी मांगे पूरी करो. Essentially, वो कह रहा है, and like his demands are shot down.
नहीं मतलब it shows kind of like who you're dealing with, you know.
Yeah.
It's setting up that, I guess. But
so yeah, that contrast of like collective bargaining and an individual going in to ask for something, and how that doesn't work at all. I thought that worked really well there, the contrast. Also the scene where that actual scene where he's sitting with the police commissioner, I think,
whoever, yeah.
So that the way that scene is framed, like the commissioner is shouting at him across the room.
Yeah.
That reminded me a lot of Network. You know, that scene where he's like, "Am I getting through to you, Mr. Beale?" Scene. You know, it's like the whole room is empty. There's nobody in there, and there's like 10 chairs, 10 empty chairs. That's a recurring theme throughout the movie, where these office spaces where the bosses are sitting, they're all empty, they're all desolate, there's no one in there apart from the bosses themselves. Even in a later scene where he goes to see his boss at SNW, which is like a analog for Larsen and Toubro, the construction company, and he goes to see the boss about like vacation time. He wants more vacation time. So there's this receptionist who's sitting in the front desk, which we don't see at all, which is like blocked off from view. So it's just like these empty spaces where these bosses are the only ones who exist. Going back to that scene where he's shouting, the police commissioner is shouting across the room to in this empty room, that I really like that scene. Like, it just signifies like the projection of power and stuff like that. So after that he decides, like, again, as he did in the beginning of the movie, to use his own forces, like use his own connections to fix this problem. Goes again back to his aunt.
Yeah, it's like weird though, like the relationship with his aunt or whatever, him constantly just saying no and then going there and just making shit about her and still using her as a tool to get shit done.
Yeah, because he does go to her as a last resort in any case, right? It's just like after हाथ पैर मार लेने के बाद ही जाता है उसके पास ना. Whatever he can do in his power, if that shot down, it's constantly shot down in this movie. That's making a point there, right? The movie is like, you can't do anything without connections, which is like, ऐसी हिदायत तो या हर एक आदमी देता रहता है कि like every person here in India, like, it's just like you need to have connections or whatever to even exist.
It's not like just India though, like it's just a universal kind of thing people think.
Yeah, but here it's more
in your face maybe, but like
it's essential here. You can't sidestep it in any aspect.
You can. It's whatever. Anything else?
That scene where the aunt takes the wife to a temple.
Yeah.
And she's talking about how in religion she has found some sort of freedom.
Freedom or like solitude or something.
Yeah,
like that.
something.
I think I don't think it was freedom.
Yeah. Refuge, essentially.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. Do you think there was any significance to that scene? Why I didn't understand why the wife was so reluctant to go to the temple with the aunt.
Because it's all throughout the film like male dominance or whatever, right? Like patriarch.
because of him.
Yeah, he explicitly said don't go with her. That's the extent of those things. Even later on when she's hemming and hawing about should I go to this party or not, that is explicitly he has kind of made it known that he doesn't want her to go, even though he's saying do what you want.
Yeah.
So it kind of takes for the aunt to blackmail her, to go emotionally blackmailing her,
There was also in the first scene we see that he trips and makes a thing of color fall on the ground, like the religious thing.
The kumkum.
Yeah. In the beginning, that's the also in the temple scene that I'm talking about. It happens there as well. Do you think there's any connection there, or just
connection with what?
It happens twice, right? Do you think there's any significance to it?
But वो तो अशुभ नहीं होता है ना.
They're just collecting the colors, and I don't know. I mean, it seemed like there was some significance, but I couldn't.
Yeah, that's again that old trying to hurt or some shit, these things just happening. I don't know.
Maybe.
It's like a game or some shit.
Game, yes. Do you think that the framing of the house and urban living as some sort of monster, it plays into the fact that urban living makes you, it is it foments your isolationism, right? That you are separate from others. There's no communal aspect to it, that living. It makes you paranoid of other people's intentions. It makes you paranoid of why people are doing things, and you ascribe these notions to these people's actions that if they're doing that, if they're making that noise, it must be do some sort of a personal harm against me, it's some sort of personal vendetta against me, right? That's what the
maybe in urban living it's more amplified, but that just exists throughout.
It also is
anywhere,
burrowing yourself into the thing. Again, there's this parallel with the movie Network. It's just even in your living room, that doesn't the outside world doesn't stop coming into it. It's just, even that's not allowed by the standards of urban living. But the isolationism and the paranoia aspects, do you think that's highlighted in this movie?
That's pretty much kind of lifted from, or inspired by more or less by Polanski.
How could it be?
I mean, that's literally about paranoia and
I don't think there's any connection between this movie and his movies.
I mean, that just goes into the absurd after a while, but this is kind of like that.
Do you think that these people who were living in that vicinity, in that house,
what happens in apartment?
It's not called the apartment, first of all.
The tenant.
I'm not even sure it's called that, but what happens is that he becomes isolated. He's living in this apartment. He becomes isolated and he becomes more open with himself, and by the end of it he kind of loses it.
Yeah, so does that sort of not happen with this guy?
No, I don't think this movie does that. It tackles so many other issues rather than just urban isolationism. It's just, I'm saying that there's a undercurrent of paranoia and isolationism in this movie. That.
So isn't that present in both of Polanski's movie, like Rosemary's Baby or The Tenant or Apartment, which are...
He made 3 movies about apartment living, and
those 2 I have watched. The third.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to discuss those movies.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't remember much of The Tenant anyways, but I remember liking it when I watched it. But this movie is its own beast.
Yeah.
Uh, speaking,
we were talking more about the paranoia aspects or whatever, right? Like,
yeah, but here the paranoia isn't like rooted in some sort of like supernatural element or some sort of like external element. It isn't. It is rooted in reality. It is like some sort of a shared delusion kind of
but isn't that kind of a reality that's him trying to escape in the Tenant? You know, like him
He's
trying
not.
to escape like his own truths or whatever.
And okay,
And it's kind of similar in that way, right? Like this film also does that, like him trying to escape what he truly is. That is a monster who has been stepping on people for ages, and now it's just amplified more.
in this movie.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that's what I'm getting at.
Do you like this character?
Who?
The Nasiruddin Shah character.
No, I don't think the movie likes him either.
Movie, I think.
I don't think it's sympathizing with him.
I think it's kind of sympathizing with him, or wants you to empathize with it. To an
Maybe
extent.
it is, but like I don't think that's a productive conversation to have, to be honest.
As in,
Like, is he a likable character, or do you identify with him? I mean, you do identify with him on the basis like him getting angry over things and him getting impulsive, him getting paranoid. But as a person, I don't think I identify with this character at all. Do you think there's a shared delusion aspect to what all of these people like who are living in that area, in where the house is? Do you think they share a delusion, like they want things to happen on a equal basis, like them wanting the construction shed to go away? Do you think that that was a shared desire for those people?
shared desire.
Everyone wanted that to happen, right?
I don't know. The old lady didn't. Other than that, I don't think.
Right.
She was quoting the Gita or some shit like that.
Yeah, she didn't want to sign the petition either, whatever he had.
Yeah. Other people were at least saying that we don't want to just because it probably won't work or some shit. Like she was adamant that, and she also sort of like curses them at that point when they like get thrown out.
Do you think there's a aspect of like boiling the frog thing where these people are when they essentially escape their village life after having lived there for whatever how many years, they come into the city life and they're being like slowly introduced to these aspects of city living, essentially, right? They're being like certain things are being inculcated into them by like trial by fire kind of things that are happening here. Like there was this one scene where Nasiruddin Shah is like going at a public payphone to call his office to say that he's going to be late, and there's this people who are like hauling these 2 or 3 drums on a.
It's the same shit people.
So that scene really wants to say that they're after him, right? They're out to get him, because whenever he tries to like escape them or like look around him, he doesn't see that. But
it's kind of so obvious that it's kind of so hokey and shit. Like it's just the character would believe that, but we as third-party viewers won't, like, because.
But why does that's the important part, right? It shows that the character's paranoia comes to a boil at that point, and him starting to believe that the world is out to get him at that point, like personally to get him. Do you think that that's part of city living, that you starting to believe that everything bad that's happening is like personally happening to you?
It's not like about city living, it's just about living, you know. Anywhere you live, it's kind of like you think that, right, on a certain level, because are afraid of the unknown or whatever, right? Like it's just that simple. In city living, it's just amplified to like 10 those feelings because of the claustrophobic nature of like living in such a close quarters or whatever.
What I'm talking about is like people saying that you'll get used to it. The noise, you'll get used to it, like living in the city. That sort of thing I'm talking about. Like, do these people get used to it?
I mean, obviously they do on certain levels, right?
So don't you think there's like boiling the frog aspect there?
What is boiling the frog?
Like, if you boil a frog, like if you do it like at the highest possible temperature, then the frog will notice that he's being boiled. But if you do it in increments, then he'll get accommodated to the temperature and he won't even notice that he's being boiled. That sort of thing.
I don't think they are just like they don't identify with his claim much, right? Like they have learned to live with it or whatever. They have circumvented it somehow. Otherwise, how could they live on? It's when this person actually in the initial stages when he is making noise or being like screaming around or whatever, that's the point where like everybody opens their doors or windows and looks at him weird.
After the noise is stopped.
And like once the shed thing starts, they are like blasé about it, right? Like he opens his windows and like acha shed wale aa gaye, the priest guy or like the guy jeweler, he's just like whatever, okay, they're back, right? So they don't particularly care about it at this juncture.
When we see his work for the first time, the husband's, there's a lot of noise there as well, right? I mean, it's a deafening noise there. And like that, he's comfortable with in his daytime working there. He doesn't have a problem with that sort of noise. Do you think that there's a demarcation in this movie where there is sanctioned noise and unsanctioned noise, legal noise and illegal noise? What troubles them is only the illegal noise, right? Quote unquote illegal noise, which is like not ratified, like pakka noise nahi hai. Do you think that aspect is there?
Again, them using that word is kind of peculiar. It's never like the lady's choice, like it's just whatever.
Does she not want the noise to go away as well?
She doesn't.
Isn't she afflicted by the noises?
She isn't like complaining about it as such. Even when the first night when she is sleepless or when the aunt character is introduced, right? Like that day when she comes in, she's just going on with her day or whatever. She isn't like she doesn't really have anyone to complain to as such. It's mostly we are looking at this male character's voice and that's being heard or whatever. He's the puppet master here. He's pulling the strings. He's trying to get things done or whatnot. But he doesn't want himself to be involved in this somehow. He's making her go and complain to this police officer.
The context there is important that they went to the police officer together before in their aunt's house, and he was acting like a bit lecherous towards her. But she didn't feel comfortable with him, and yet he sent her alone afterwards to talk to the police officer. When the noise hadn't stopped, the first arrangement was that they would work only in the day.
That's also like a polar opposite scene of like the initial scene where they're walking around in a park or some road and some guy just propositions her for like prostitution.
Thinks that she's like roaming the streets at night is like a thing that only prostitutes do or something like that. That sort of thing.
So at that point he's really protective of her with that tone or aspect, like and like later on he's just saying, yeah, just go on.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing there, that all of the people in this movie who know of the aunt character, they think of her as some sort of like quote unquote loose woman, like she's selling her body or something. That seems to be the implication, that she is like, she doesn't have any moral character or anything. That's implied in the movie heavily, and yet they always like go to her for things that they want done. It is kind of an interesting dichotomy there. It's just like power holds in different forms there.
So I don't know what you're saying there.
The point being that she is like, when they want to deride her, it's like just like, oh no, she is just.
It's not, again, like it's not wholly like the female character's choice there. It's not.
Whenever she is Deepti Nawal's character is talking to the aunt character. There. Deepti Nawal's character is like always reserved about her own knowledge of the aunt's history, her background, why she does things. It's like she has internalized whatever the society, the husband is saying about her, and only in the later half of the movie is when she realizes what she has actually gone through and what her actual struggles were and how
she's always been kind of sympathetic towards her, even though like people have been talking shit about this aunt character.
But she does say things that she has internalized to the aunt. Even in the cemetery, when like the aunt's character is saying that कम से कम मेरे पास अपना घर तो है, and she takes offense to that, right? I mean, she thinks that the aunt is comparing the husband and wife to her own life, and she takes offense to that because she believes that they are superior to her.
Yeah, that is the only point where the conflict exists though. Like, it's not a through line with their relationship, the wife and the aunt. I don't know what you're talking about there.
It was also apparent in the temple scene.
Yeah, but there's no conflict there. There's like just trying to know this person or trying to hear them out before like forming an opinion there.
Yeah, okay.
It's only in the cemetery scene where like it kind of unravels or whatever. Like,
let's get back to the point that I was at, like the sanctioned versus unsanctioned noise thing, where when the shed is like uprooted and the people are displaced from the shed, the thing that takes its place is a video games hut, right? What it's called. It's a
whatever. People are playing video game emphatically.
Yeah, there are arcade machines. There's arcade machines there, and there's noise there as well. Yeah. There's like, it is the previous noise.
I'm unsure of as to like how long that runs or whatnot. I'm thinking it runs post like 11 or something, though, compared to the shed.
Yeah.
So like, what were you saying?
Yeah, my point is that him working, he has a lot of noise while he works at SNW, the company in this movie, where he makes lifts and it's a construction company.
Yeah.
Point being that he has noise there as well, but he is used to that. But that's some sort of like thing that you are forced to live with, rather than something which you can like do maneuver out of, essentially, like with a shed. Like you can cause those people to go away through any means. Like when the arcade machines are there, when the video games hut is established there, the noise still exists there. It takes just a different form.
I don't know. I don't see that as a problem as such. If they aren't making that noise beyond a certain period, I don't think they are really bothered by that. It's just he picks up on some other shit after that, like the whole scene with the whole ants and stuff. It's kind of to signify that he just wants some other shit to like be pissed off about.
It shifts.
It's just like paranoia and those things are being developed there. It's not about like what's happening at the arcade or whatever.
So you don't think that it's about the sanctification of things? It's about like the whole development rhetoric.
No, it's like it's signified at 2 points. At like before that, him coming home and like somehow ending up at the bottom of the bed and like trying to grab hold of her clump of hair, with the broom. It's kind of like there when he just freaks out over like nothing that isn't really bothering him, that thing.
Yeah.
And he's just being anal about it. And like after that, the whole ants thing, it's kind of signifying certain things. Once the noise goes, he just finds another thing.
And he lashes out at her, and that's commented upon in the movie itself. Like she says something to that effect, that you're taking out some place else's anger on me. I thought that also solidified that I don't empathize with this character at all, because like even within the context of like paranoia, if you're going to use that as an excuse to abuse a person, then it's something I don't identify with. There was this one scene I wanted to talk about where like he's telling her a joke, like a WhatsApp forward kind of joke, in order to make her less angry and like less despondent essentially there. And so when he tells that stupid joke, like a kind of sexist joke, he's the one who's laughing at that joke like for a few seconds there, and there's total silence in the background, and I think that was a perfect distillation of like that
what
he's
this
doing.
Guy is about.
He's doing everything because he, in his own paranoid mind, it's all become about himself. Like he's personally being attacked by these things, and it's just him. Only he exists.
The scene itself also begins with him like roaming around the house trying to look for silence or whatever, trying to listen to silence. So
look at what I have achieved here. Look at what my actions have done.
So it's just it's really good, that scene.
Also, do you think that people tend to develop, like in this movie and in real life as well, they tend to develop mythologies around like certain actions and certain way to do things, like a flow chart of things, like how you're supposed to do things in a legal manner and how you're supposed to do things when you want to get things done, right? So you believe that giving a bribe will get you to the front of the line, right? That sort of thing, and that sort of belief that because you did certain things, certain other things happened. Like giving a bribe is not 100% efficacious thing. Like it doesn't always work. That it won't always bring you in the front of the line, right? The point being that there are mythologies that people tend to tell you that like if you do things this way, in this manner, then you'll get things done faster and you'll get things done before other people. So like these sort of mythologies are also in this movie. Like these people tell him how to get these people out, how to get the shed people out of there. Like first thing is like you'll have to like get signatures of these other people and bring that to the police commissioner, and the police commissioner says that no, this won't do, you need something else here, like I won't do this. And
no, he was saying that you need NOC of everyone, so everyone didn't sign
so that sort of thing, like where it's
and that wasn't that big of an ask though. Like we could have just gotten the NOCs. That's pretty easy.
The point there is like it's the whole building mythologies around like how things work.
I don't see what you're talking about.
Okay, there was this also. He has a inside the house, like they have like the husband and wife. I think the husband has that thing of like the Empire State Building. There's a small scale model of that in there.
That's also there in the aunt's house.
Yeah, it's when the police commissioner comes into their house with the aunt, he's like fiddling with it, and I thought that was interesting enough, like seeing that sort of thing where,
I mean, Nasiruddin Shah's character was fiddling with it in the aunt's house, so
yeah. So like it's just like going from their desires to like have more than they have. It's kind of like,
I don't know. I think it's false equivalency or whatever it is. Just some scene. Again, like I could be wrong for all I care. Like I didn't see it. Just I am saying that.
okay.
एक बार एक पहलवान जी थे, हैं? हमारे जो ये बॉडी बिल्डर है ना, इनसे दुगने इतने बड़े। तो एक दिन उनकी गर्लफ्रेंड उनसे बिला वजह रूठ गई, जैसे तुम अभी रूठी हुई हो। तो पहलवान जी ने सोचा कि इसको मनाने के लिए मैं एक प्रेजेंट लेकर आता हूं। तो पहलवान जी चलकर गए और एक लेडीज फैंसी स्टोर में वो क्या देखते हैं कि बैंगल्स और चूड़ियां और पाउडर, क्रीम, लिपस्टिक, साड़ियां, सैंडल, अमका डमका पता नहीं क्या क्या रखा हुआ था। इसे देखकर पहलवान जी एकदम चकरा गए। समझ में नहीं आया कि मैं क्या खरीदूं। इतने में एक सेल्स गर्ल चलती हुई आई, टिक 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 टिक, बोली क्या चाहिए सर? तो भौचक्के से पहलवान जी के मुंह से निकल गया बैंगल। तो सेल्स गर्ल ने कहा अच्छा साइज क्या है जी? पहलवान जी ने कहा पता नहीं। अच्छा किसके लिए ले रहे हैं सर? तो वो बोले मेरी एक वो। तो सेल्स गर्ल बोली अच्छा अच्छा आपने उसका हाथ तो पकड़ा होगा? तो पहलवान जी ने कहा हाँ। तो सेल्स गर्ल ने अपना हाथ बढ़ाया और कहा अच्छा मेरा हाथ पकड़ के देखिए ये साइज ठीक है? तो पहलवान जी ने हाथ पकड़ा और बोले हाँ हाँ। तो सेल्स गर्ल ने चूड़ियां सब बांध के दे दी। देखते हैं पहलवान जी फिर भी खड़े हुए। बोली अब क्या चाहिए सर? तो पहलवान जी कहते हैं कि वैसे तो उसे एक ब्रेजियर भी चाहिए था पर मुझे उसका भी साइज नहीं मालूम।